there is a distinction. Being dual homed means we have two connections to the same ISP. Being multi-homed means we have connectivity to two separate ISPs. And so are we dual homed or multi-homed in this topology? We are multi-homed. We're AS100 and we are connecting up to two different ISPs. So this allows us for more redundancy. No real surprises there. There's no real surprises. In order for us to run BGP, we need a unique autonomous system, and that is really needed because we can't just be an extension of them. We are our own entity at this point. Now, how do we work with BGP? There are a few different strategies. We're going to use BGP to exchange routes, but are we going to exchange all routes? One strategy is just use default routing. Just use default routing. It's still possible to do that. So although you have a neighborship, we're filtering out all of the internet routes. But what this does is it allows us to advertise our own routes. Let's say we've got some public prefixes that we want to advertise. This is where our public servers live, and we want to advertise into the internet. We absolutely could do that. So going out, default routing. Coming in, they're coming into us because we've advertised our public subnets. But what if one of these ISPs is better or preferred to get to specific networks, such as networks that they own? We may choose to go with partial routes in order to reach those networks that they own. And then for the rest of the internet, do default routing. So one of our ISPs might have, let's say, 10,000 routes that we want to be advertised in. So they advertise their specific routes. And now to reach those routes that are specific to ISP1, we'll go through ISP1. And then we'll use default routing for the remaining subnets that may live on the internet. But there are needs nowadays to run, in certain cases, in an enterprise network, full internet. And that means you've got full control over which ISP you use to get to those routes that exist there, and vice versa. But there's some downside. You can turn into an ISP at this point. So you need to understand the ramifications of running this. And certainly, we can do filtering. A lot of what we see here is filtering. Getting one route that's the default, and maybe a few specific routes. And prefix lists are really the construct, the configuration tool that we're going to use in order to perform that route filtering. So, as a continuation here, the more information that have, the more control. And if you know about a route, that allows you to optimize that route. It allows you to control the link utilization. You cannot influence metrics and attributes for routes that are not being exchanged with you. So if you get the entirety of the routing table coming into you, you get to then build route maps that say, I want to go here for these networks. I want to manipulate these attributes for the other networks. And that allows you to load distribute inbound and outbound. But we're talking enormous numbers of routing prefixes. We are concerned about CPU impact, RAM impact. Thankfully, the RAM and CPUs are a lot more powerful these days, but the downside is the internet routing table is a lot larger than it was even a few years ago.